Buyers tend to take all the time that they negotiate up front. And so now you're talking about 2 weeks. No, don't do that. Time is the enemy. You want less of it. Sellers often bristle at the whole home inspection process. It's uncomfortable. It's like getting a root canal. So this video is intended to make it more comfortable. Think of it like Novocaine or nitrous oxide for real estate. Stay tuned. This all assumes you didn't do a pre-inspection, but I think there are good arguments for doing a pre-inspection. I did a whole video on that. Basically, it gives you more control over the repairs that you make and allows you to do it on your own timeline. You're not under the gun, and get bids and get the best pricing. Do things that you know need to be done, like replacing the HVAC filter, replacing burned out light bulbs. Try to make them match in color. These are good tips for getting your house ready, show ready, but it's also good for the home inspection. It gives everybody a feeling that the house is well maintained. Labeling circuits, things like that. You might prevent the buyer from feeling overwhelmed by the findings and running away. You might also get marketing benefits out of having these things buttoned up in advance. So you finally got through all the negotiation over price and terms and all of that, and now you're in this zone of waiting, which can try your patience, believe me. I've seen it time and again. Buyers tend to take all the time that they negotiate up front. Our boilerplate contract has 10 days for the home inspection period, and they will probably take all of that. Plus, they can kick out that period another 5 days, according to the boilerplate, if the inspector recommends further evaluation of one of the systems in the home. And so now you're talking about 2 weeks. No, don't do that. This is probably the first tip that I'm going to give you. Consider shrinking that time frame down with a counter offer. I almost always counter if an inspection comes in at 10 days. I like 4 or 5 days with 2 days for additional evaluation if recommended. Have the house clean. That sounds basic. You've been cleaning for showings. Go ahead and clean for the home inspection. Just pretend it's a showings. The buyer is likely to be present, and all the parties will just be influenced, I think, by cleanliness or messiness, as the case may be. Leave for the home inspection. Don't be present. You are not going to hear how the inspection went right away. Sellers almost always call me the second the buyers and the inspector leave, and they want to know how it went. We don't know yet. The inspector needs to write a report, send that to the parties. They need to review that, talk it over, and figure out what's important and what's not. So any early read on how the inspection went is premature. Sometimes the conversation on site goes one way, but when everything's in writing and after it's been reviewed, suddenly there's more or less concern than there was on site. The process has to play out before you're going to know how it went. Expect a laundry list of requests. I think sometimes it feels like the home inspector is getting paid by the number of items that they find. It can get pretty nitpicky. Hopefully the buyer and the buyer's realtor will talk about it and focus instead on immediate real defects relating to safety or functionality, not cosmetics and that kind of thing. But brace yourself for a long list of items. This is where negotiation starts again. Focus on the big things. in deciding what to agree to, consider fixing items relating to safety, structure, systems, active roof leaks, crumbling mortar joints in the chimney, things like that. Those are legitimate things and likely to bother any buyer. Typically, when a buyer asks for replacement of, say, the water heater that's older but it's still working, oftentimes the seller will go back and not agree to that. It's working. If it ain't broke, don't fix it, sort of mentality. And oftentimes that is successfully negotiated. Okay, so the roof. The roof is a little more complex because it gets scrutinized during inspection and the bank's appraisal. We're looking for 5 years of useful life left. It can't be leaking. It can't be, bare of its granules. If it has those things, we typically can't get by without replacing the roof or at least making repairs. I think it's a good idea to do that before you list, again, so you get the marketing benefit. If you're going to replace the roof because of the home inspection or because of the appraisal, you may as well have it look beautiful in the photos. So you've got options once the buyer asks for repairs. You can go ahead and agree to the repairs. You might avoid a lot of back and forth that way. You can just sign off on the request and you are fully pending. The risk of doing that, though, is that the repairs that you make might not be to the buyer's satisfaction. So it just creates a potential snag later in the transaction. It's not a perfect solution. Or you can offer a credit in lieu of making repairs. Buyers tend to like this because it gives them control over how those repairs get made. You love it because it avoids contractor chaos and the risk of that repair not being to the buyer's liking, ultimately. Pro tip, a credit for closing costs as opposed to a price reduction actually puts money in the buyer's pocket, in essence, which allows them to do the repairs right after closing. A price reduction doesn't actually put any more cash in their pocket. Or finally, you can just say no. If a request feels excessive, you might push back. Not every item that a buyer asks for necessarily needs to be fixed. Another tip is leverage your position. Are there backup offers in place? Was there a bidding war? Is your home priced to perfection? Those things matter. If your house had 10 offers, you might not need to bend over backwards to please this buyer. So consider putting one of those offers into backup position so that if the negotiation on inspection fails, you can put that number 2 buyer into first position right away. And this will change the tone of the inspection negotiation in your favor. On the other hand, if you were overpriced, under contract by some miracle, and the buyer holds all the cards, this might not be the time to play hardball. It's best to use a calm, fact-based tone. In our experience, it's being logical and calm in your response, avoiding heated rhetoric and alienating the parties on the other side tend to get the best results. You might explain that the water heater is working even though it's older and therefore might not be something that needs to be replaced. Keep the end goal in mind, ultimately. Is it really worth losing a transaction over one item that costs maybe a few $100? Probably not. The key here is to weigh each item that the buyer requests against your bigger goal of getting to the closing table. Email me if you'd like a written version of this to follow along during your transaction. Thank you.